Good afternoon, everybody, man. Welcome. We are going to be talking about something that is very, very important in the Black community and all communities that it is. We have a host of a bunch of people today, man. Welcome, everybody, man, to the Black Barbers edition. You know what I'm saying? Brought to you in part by Independence Blue Cross and Know Your Mind campaign. Independence encourages us about mental health issues. This is something that's really serious. You know, Father's Day is coming around. Happy Father's Day to all of the fathers, good and bad. Happy Father's Day, you guys, that's coming up. But we definitely want to talk about these mental things that's going on. Today we'll explore, some of them. And we have some special guests here, man. The city's Department of Behavioral Health, Dr. Wright, psychologist and director of Behavioral Health and Justice Division, and Gabriel Bryant, coordinator for Engaging Males of the Color Program. Welcome, gentlemen. Gabe, let's start with you.
How you feel?
I'm good. I want to get right to it, Lorraine. I love you. We got to get to this.
Okay, you speak your truth. Go ahead.
Yeah, we got to get to this. I mean, it's a lot of things that's going on, especially in the Black community. And this is a subject, I know we talk about a lot of the violence and everything that goes on. Can you kind of give us some insight and about, young Afro-American men and young urban men and what's going on and the definition of masculinity? We don't talk about mental issues, but I think mental issues play a part in a lot of things that are going on today inside of the community.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me on the program. Long-time fan of you, Cosmic Kev, and what you've brought to the city of Philadelphia for so many years. So first of all, thank you for your ongoing work in our community. But really, man, when it comes to questions of masculinity, our young men today find it in the same ways that I found masculinity, 25, 30 years ago. It's going to be people in the neighborhood, the old heads or the other young boys. It's, the television. It's my social circle. But I think also, what I didn't have 30 years ago was social media, right? And so I think, when it comes down to questions of what somebody might have on Instagram, on Twitch, things that people are seeing, people are comparing, their worth based on what people have, what people are seeing on social media. And unfortunately, that's becoming a challenge. And so one of the things that we're trying to do is return some of those ideas back to a healthy sense of masculinity that's not really based on what you have necessarily, but really just one's own self-worth and one's own being here in the community. So that's really what we've been focusing on and really asking for help. I think one of the challenges that we found is that, as we all know, we all have been conditioned to think that asking for help is a weakness. But showing people that, it's a strength to understand for oneself what you don't know. And even if you don't know something, to ask somebody for help and to gain that knowledge and gain that wisdom from your other brother. So those are just some of the things I can think about.
Dr. Gene, how you doing?
I'm doing well, sir. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, man. As I said earlier, there's a lot of things that's going on in the community, but I think this has somewhat, a segue to what's going on. And I kind of want you to elaborate.
I mean, Gabe really touched on in terms of the mindset and the challenges out there are that most of the young people and even the, old heads and some of the seniors and parents in between and uncles and cousins, they get so used to the challenges that are happening in our communities that they think that's how it's supposed to be. Walking past yellow tape and chalk outlines becomes the norm for some people in some neighborhoods. I mean, I've heard some young guys say, 15, 16 years old, yeah, man, I lost two of my friends this summer. It's all right, though. I'm all right. No, you're not. You're not all right. But they think they have to present that persona of being tough and bad and all that. And nothing bothers me. And to Gabe's point, to not articulate or speak out loud about what's really going on inside. There's fear inside. There's hurt inside. There's pain. There's trauma. And yet we being men mostly are not given permission necessarily to speak on it in a way that is healing and soothing because of what Gabe said in terms of people perceived as weaknesses or something like that. But man, there's a whole lot going on in our community, Kev, that young men especially, but all young people need to be able to talk about. And we need to have folks in positions to be there for them so we can hear their story, because every single person has a story. And if they just pack it in and hold it in and don't speak on it, man, that thing can fester, man, and it can turn into something that can really be challenging for us down the road.
Sidebar, and I just want to just put this out there. I feel like now we live in a time that when, let's say, it takes a village to raise a child. But now, let's say if my neighbor's son is outside the street and he's marking up somebody's car, I go outside, I say to my neighbor, hey, your son's out here, just such and such. We live in a society now that, these, I would say the adults, the parents, they'll say, well, why did you say something to my child? Don't say nothing to my kid. But your child is out there marking up or dismantling somebody's property. And I don't want to get off the subject, but I'm just asking, how do we handle that type of situation?
I would start from the standpoint of what's your relationship like with the neighbor, the parent? It's hard to go out and speak to somebody else's child and correct them when you don't have a relationship with the parent.
Right.
And so what used to be able to happen in terms of big folks being able to check each other and all that, it's because we had relationships. And so if I'm not close to the father or the mother, the neighbor next door, then I should be hesitant to go out and say something to the child because I have not established credibility with the parent or the child for that matter. And so then people get in their feelings, how that goes, and you get defensive. And next thing you know, you got a misunderstanding on the spot, as Bernie Mac used to say, And so I would say your best ability to address issues in our community depends on the level of communication and relationship that you have with the people that you live with, that you live around, and that you're trying to work with.
Kev, we have a bunch of barbers who are joining us. They are part of a program that came out of UACAP called Sharp Insight. And these are barbers that really care about the community. And we know that barbershops are the heart of our community. And joining us is Rock Salvatore Hall, who's with Hair Forever Barbershops, Norm Smith, Sharp Skills Barbershop, Mark Lightfoot, who is with Philadelphia Hair Company, and Woody Wood, who's with UACAP and was the coordinator of Sharp Insight. I was wondering if the barbers and also Woody can talk about how the young men in particular, but just all the men that they serve, how they've been dealing with the stresses of this pandemic, because we know that the violence rate has really skyrocketed during this time. And I wonder, because you have your boots on the ground and you're seeing how people are relating and how they feel, what have you been observing about some of the clients that you have? We'll start with you, Rock.
Hello, everybody. I'm going to speak to y'all once again. How y'all doing today? The way we can handle the things that's going on in life right now with social media is overtaking everything. And only way everybody listens is as if everyone is listening at the same time. So with children like on the blocks, you have to actually go for the leaders and start with them first. The ones that look like they're the dominant children or the alphas or whatever you want to call them at this point in time when it comes to the violence in the neighborhood. Once you get them into a certain level of level-mindedness, then the rest of them will follow. And that's how I kind of control things in my own shop, in my business. There are multiple amount of young brothers that come in here on a regular basis. And they come in together now. They come in like in groups. So when they're coming in groups, I might look at one of them like, all right, that's enough of the loud stuff or whatever's going on. And everybody else follows and performs. The days of parenting is kind of like over because of the way these children have been raised in these streets. They're not actually staying in the house with their parents as much. Parents are out working and doing what they're doing in the businesses or the work day. So those days of being in the home are kind of like stopped and minimized to a level where those children aren't seeing their parents and the parents aren't teaching them old ways.
Rock, I'm going to stop you there and turn over to Mark. I think what Rock is saying, that there are certain pressures that kids these days are experiencing that maybe we didn't, because we didn't have social media when we were coming up. So that adds another layer of stress and anxiety. And then the other thing that was mentioned before, a lot of these folks know somebody who was killed, and very likely at least one, maybe more. Mark, what are your thoughts on that and some of the pressures that some of these young men are experiencing?
I don't see a lot of it because I don't have that kind of element coming in my shop. The kids, and if they are, they change when they come in my shop. They act different. In my shop, is no curse. I try to have it a family element. So in fact, I just was talking to a customer and he was saying the same thing. He was saying, Footman, those young boys out there is crazy. He's like, see, you don't get to see it because they don't come in here. When they come through my doors, I don't know if it's because of my reputation or because it's just the way my mother played a big part in my shop. She set the tone before she passed. It's like that's just the tone that's in my shop. So I don't get to see a lot of it.
Well, Mark, you've created an environment where people feel safe. Woody, I want to turn to you because you work with the barbers, but also you work with a youth organization. And how often is it that kids ask for the kind of help that could be available? They're going through a lot. They're experiencing violence. They're experiencing peer pressure. What is your take on how these kids are, whether they're asking for help or whether they're resisting asking for help? What's the state that you see?
Lorraine, to be honest, when you're talking about young people, a lot of times we don't really reach out. I don't see them reaching out unless maybe someone maybe had passed away, family member or a friend, then we may offer support, but they don't really talk about it too much. They deal with it in their own way. I think it's a lot of challenges that young people have today. Social media is one, the violence is another, family issues, pandemic, being in the house a lot, not being able to play sports, to do things that they normally would do. So I think the challenges do exist. I don't think that when we think of traditional support for, around mental health, I don't think that is an option that oftentimes is offered or well received by youth and some young adults that we work with.
I want to make a quick comment on what one of the barbers said about the environment. I think that's very, very important that you create, because if you come into somebody's business or if you have an establishment, you come in there and there's a lot of crazy stuff going on, you have to lead by example. If you're leading by the example, you're going to bring that type of company inside of your establishment. So I want to just take my hats off to what he was saying. And now definitely want to get back to Dr. Gabriel Bryant. Tell us, how does Engaging Males of the Color program works? And, what's the process and progress you guys have done for the younger generation?
And thank you for that question. I think a couple of things. One is to kind of bring it back to the previous speakers, like with the barbers. The issues that we've had prior to COVID are the same issues that we had during COVID. The same issues that we got after COVID. Poverty issues, toxic homes, underemployment, challenges with education. And so one of the things that we do primarily is make sure that we go to the community, go to the men and boys, whether that means in schools, playgrounds, rec centers, and we have that in-person dialogue. And even, with the young people that are detained over at the Juvenile Justice Services Center at 48th and Haverford, for the better part of the past 6 years, we've been working with those young men, providing wellness sessions, putting them on a track where they can figure out, all right, after I get discharged here, I'm going to get back into employment or back to school, or I'm going to move, or I'm going to figure out a new job for myself, just to get a plan together. Because I think oftentimes we don't do those types of things that really orients like, what does my life look like beyond these next couple of years or couple of months? What we also do is make sure that we increase access to services. I think, most times if, a young person is in a restaurant and they see somebody choking, they might know where to call somebody, to get help. But that same person in the restaurant that's showing a mental health episode, what do we all do? We call the police. Some just might, record it, but we oftentimes don't know what to do. And so really as a community, we're trying to figure out ways to equip people to know how to deal with their emotions, whether it's their anger, their grief, their loss, their sadness, their anxieties, their depression. These are issues that unfortunately for men of color, when we have physical ailments, what do? We walk it off, right? We have a headache, our aches and pains in our body, we try to sleep it off. Some others, we might use substances and try to, work through it. What happens when that same man is hearing voices and that same man has been having doubts and is down for days, if not weeks, if not months? we still sleep it off and walk it off. And in fact, I'll say this. The people who call me the most for my program, Engaging Males of Color, are grandmoms, sisters, girlfriends, wives, because they're all telling me, hey, Mr. Bryant, my son, grandson, husband, or boyfriend is having challenges. I know that he has these challenges, but he's too afraid or just unwilling to approach somebody like yourself without the gene right. What can I do? So that's what we're kind of up against, right? This community conversation. And how do we reduce the stigma around it? And then also have access to people like myself and others in our department who can provide those resources.
Dr. Wright, man, can you capitalize on, on the public talk about mental health issues and, give us your side of it?
Absolutely, Kev. Gabe did a great job describing it. And the way I look at, men of color in terms of seeking help, and Gabe touched on it, it's like, we won't go to the dentist unless we can't chew on one side, and then we go to the other side and chew. And if we can't chew on that side until we can't eat, then we go to the dentist because we can't eat on either side of our mouth, right? and so when you're talking about men and what men have been socialized to believe about themselves, is that they have to present this persona of toughness, and they have to present this presentation of invincibility and holding things in. And so depression, anxiety, worry. Gabe and his unit showed a film, Burden, more than once, but most recently, I believe, is in April. And it's the day in the life of an African-American male, 20 minutes. I recommend that to every Latin and African-American man and anybody of color to just look at that, because it's similar in terms of what they're dealing with. The pressure from the time this brother woke up and went out and had to put on his armor. He had to strap on his psychological and emotional armor to go outside his doors and leave the peace of his home and go to work. And on the way to work, and all these things that happen, and what happens in the daily life. All these brothers on this call, all these barbers can speak to you what it feels like to leave the comfort of their home and go to work. That is challenging. And then to not have a safe space or a brave space to talk about the challenges. We talk about sports. We talk about women. We talk about, a lot of things, but we may not talk about what's hurting, because we're not sure. And that's why I was saying earlier, Kev, in terms of that neighbor, having a relationship where men feel comfortable and feel safe saying, you know what, I have some challenges and I need some brothers that's been through some things to help me through this and not have to carry the burden alone. If the pandemic hasn't taught us anything else, it's that social distancing does not mean we cannot stay connected. Right? We're on this Zoom call right now, right? And this is beautiful. And I tell my young bulls, hey, I don't care how many friends you got on Facebook, TikTok, and all that. You got one friend that you can call on when you need it. And so for men of color, barbershops is where you can get some healing. Barbershops is where you can have a conversation about the challenges. Barbershops, you can be accepted and you're okay. For that time, you're sitting in there with other men and no telling what the conversation is going to be. Brother Mark may not allow cursing, but I'm sure he allows some other kind of conversations that that make some sense. And I respect Brother Mark, because I go to a barber that doesn't allow cursing in his shop, and it's a beautiful atmosphere. So, Kev, the bottom line is we have to find a way to identify each other and support each other in ways that still allow one to feel strong, empowered, and all that, and that you're not weak when you have a challenge. We all have a challenge. And hey, man, it's okay to not be okay. And we need to be able to talk about that in ways. And so the Department of Behavioral Health, we have, dbhids.org Boost, or Boost Your Mood. We have all kind of programs for individuals to access services. But the main thing are these environments like barbershops all over the city where brothers can feel safe.
I definitely want to go to the barbers. I want to throw it to Lorraine. But before I do that, I think you said this earlier. If I'm wrong, don't hold it against me. I think everybody feels like we live in a society now that people feel like I got to be the tough guy. I got to be the hard guy. And I say this all the time. I say this to my nephews. I say this to my cousins. I say this to my neighbors. It's okay to be regular. You don't have to be the toughest guy on the block. It's all right to work. It's okay. Like, it's all right. But somewhat society has created that oh, if you know, as they used to say, working man's a sucker man. This is a part of the mental problem. At some point, maybe one of you guys could kind of, enlighten me. How do you conquer that mentality? How do you remove that mentality? Because I tell people all day long, before I was able to be on air as a full-time person, I had jobs. I've worked at 1,000 jobs. I never had a problem working. I worked at Fleur's Baseball Bubble Gum. Used to sling bubble gum on the machine. I was actually doing that when I came to Power 99. The first year that I came, and I only had like a little 20-minute shift from 1 a.m. to 1:30, but I was working second shift at Fleur's Bubble Gum. I was working, and I didn't really care about what somebody thought I was doing. Like, the guy was like, "You guys, why you working?" Well, got to pay the bills. But I just feel like that is really a part of a mental block. I want to take it to Lorraine. I want to hear from the barbers. Lorraine, you there? I know you're there.
Yeah, I'm
Hello?
here. I don't know if we can check in with Norm. Norm is busily, here he's cutting hair. Kev is talking about some additional pressures that we are also adding on to everything, and that is the expectation that peer groups have for each other, and that can have an impact on our well-being. Norm, among the people that you know, what are the barriers to asking for help, for asking for counseling?
Pride is the number one barrier, and the lack of male influence is the reason Cosmic Kev felt like it was easy for him to go get jobs and work so many different jobs as a young man, is because he clearly had that influence. Somebody somewhere around him, some man showed him that working and being a person that complements society as opposed to the person that takes away from society is more helpful. Unfortunately, people my age and maybe 10 to 20 years younger, we haven't seen the example. And if we did see the example, it wasn't one that was as promising as the drug dealer who was right in front of us, the rapper who's right on our hand or in our ear 24/7, or the actor that's on TV. So like today, I had a young man that was saying he was tired of the streets. And I keep telling him he's not. Yes, I am, Norm. I'm tired. I'm done. You're not. First and foremost, T-Mobile hiring around the corner right now. I know the manager. You can go get a job today. But what's going to happen is you're going to go get that job. You're going to work maybe 4 or 5 days. The minute he tells you to go take out the trash, you can be pissed off. The minute he makes you do something that you feel like it isn't in your, what they call it, job capabilities or job qualifications, you're going to get pissed off. They used to making a fast money. They used to not having nobody tell them what to do. They actually like the fact that the cops chase them around a little bit until it becomes too much. Now it's, oh, I want to quit. Oh, I want to do it anymore. And the reason they come to me is because they saw me do all these things. And they saw me go to school. Then they saw me become an educator. You see what I'm saying? They saw the transformation, and that came with me seeing my father work, my uncle work. I also had friends that sold drugs. How I fell into that too. But like I'm saying, I had a man to talk to.
Yeah.
A lot of these young people, and you know what's funny? A lot of my friends who weren't raised with fathers, they come talk to me for knowledge. And that's why I started a nonprofit organization called Community Pillars. Because the barbershop is the community pillar for the neighborhood. Our neighborhoods are not communities anymore. So you won't find the neighbor telling the young man to stop defacing property because he doesn't know that young man. But I can tell him to stop doing it.
Kev, to me, it sounds like what we should be doing is we should be providing all of those resources and information. Barbershops are the center of communities, and that sounds like these guys are role models. They advocate.
Lorraine, I want to go to Dr. Wright. I want to talk about Healthy Minds.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the websites that one can access information. There's ability to do self-assessment in the privacy of your own home or in the privacy of your phone. You can access it. It's not diagnosing anything. It's just giving you, so you answer some questions, and it gives you an idea of whether what you're feeling. It can actually give you some information as to whether you should get a more thorough screening. And so the beautiful part about it is you can access information, again, especially for men who aren't trying to act like something's wrong, who don't want to tell nobody something's wrong. You can do it on your phone. You can do it in the privacy of your home. The other thing is you can access training and education, public health training, like mental health first aid, which is designed for people who are not mental health professionals. You can take an 8-hour training so you can learn about the signs and symptoms of mental illness. And you can learn about the signs and symptoms of substance abuse and dependence. Again, without anybody looking over your shoulder or telling you what you need to do or not do. So Healthy Minds Philly is a great website and access. And Kirsch, you heard me talk before about Boost Your Mood campaign that DBH is doing and letting people know that we have resources. And I think the other thing that's important, Kev, and Norman hit on this, and I think it's so important what both of you all are saying. When you can meet a young person's need, their hearing gets better. So whether it was a token back in the token days or whether it's now a pass or a card to get on the train, somebody's hungry, somebody needs a couple extra dollars, sweep up. Hey, I need to take these towels to the laundry right downstairs, give you a couple bucks for that. And now the young person not only feels valued, they feel like they've earned something. They also are building a relationship in a positive way that immediately has an immediate payoff for doing something the right way. They're getting rewarded for it and they feel good. There's an intrinsic value in someone else looking at you as if you have value and you have worth. Norman said it best. If we took that to the barbershop, as Lorraine is saying, and we can build on that, the same thing that Mark is talking about. He has young men coming into his shop that already know the standard. There's a standard when you come into Mark's shop, and people know to live up to, not down to, live up to the standard. And so I think we can really market this. In the Department of Behavioral Health, we want to be partners with you guys on this. We want to be partners in terms of how we get this information into communities of color. Being 15 in 2021 is not the same as being 15 in 1979 or 1999. Being 15 today is tough, right? And so pulling all that together, the Department of Behavioral Health, working with barbershops, working with people like Lorraine, all of these things, if we come together as a community, we can make a difference in the lives of young men of color.
Mental health issues are the most pressing issue for so many people in this country, and yet we're so reluctant to talk about it. There's a lot of stigma still attached to mental health issues like depression, like anxiety. And so I think having a conversation like this, Kev, where we're talking to the people who really reach out to those folks who need help and make it okay, that's so important.
Definitely important. And I definitely want to salute all the barbers. I want to hear a little bit more because they're pointing on a lot of things that, of course, I was already aware of and already knew. But just to hear it from them gives me a different insight on how I look at it. Just like Doctor just said, the 15-year-old from 78 is different from the 15-year-old from 92, from 2000. It's a difference. I think collectively, if we can get all these ideas and all these energies and put it into a synergy, I think it really could change a lot of things that's going on in the community.
I did want to give Dr. Wright and Gabe to let us know again the resources that are available, the websites people can go to.
Go ahead, Gabe.
Yeah, definitely. You can go to our Boost Your Mood campaign, which is to figure out, it's a comprehensive list of resources and services that are available. www.dbhids.org/boost, BOOST. Again, www.dbhids.org/boost. Also, healthymindsphilly.org also has information as well. To follow us around EMOC, Engaging Males of Color, if you want to get involved, follow us on Twitter at EMOC Philly. That's EMOC Philly at EMOC Philly on Twitter. And you can also watch our film that we made talking about stories of men of color at www.dbhids.org/breathe, BREATHE.
And Dr. Wright, if people want to know about Know Your Mind, how do they find out more?
Yes, they can go to dbhids.org/boost and Know Your Mind. They can access all of those information on the website. It's really been a pleasure, Lorraine, and really working with all you barbers and Kev. And I really do hope that we're able to work together going into the community. These resources are there and we can present them as men of color. We can present those resources and connect people to those resources in a way that is not going to be undermining these young men or anybody. It doesn't even have to be just the young men, but also multicultural approach. We have to be competent in how we approach these young men because, again, we're not preaching to them. We're not telling them what to do or not do. What we're doing is living a life in front of them The only way you can do that is to have a relationship. And so I definitely commit myself to that. Any of you guys on here, go through Gabe and EMOC, and anything I can do. And if you want me to come to the shop, anything we can do some things in the community that will let these young men know that we care about them. And to Woody's point, not waiting until somebody dies, not waiting until there's some kind of issue where now we're giving them support after something happens. We need to give people support before something happens so that they know when something happens, we were already there.
Well, I'm going to give a shout out to the barbers who joined us. Rock Salvatore Hall from Hair Forever Barbershops, Norm Smith from Sharp Skills Barbershop, Mark Lightfoot from Philadelphia Hair Company, and of course, Woody Wood, who's with Yo ACAP and Sharp Insight.
I want to send a shout out to all the doctors, Dr. Bryant, Dr. Wright. Thank you guys for joining us. Really, 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 man, it's enlightened and very educational. And whatever you guys need to do, if you need me to do, let me know. I'm willing and open to be a part of it. We got to kind of get a hold of this. And you guys are right. Can't wait till something happens. And I want to send a shout out to Woody. Woody, I see you. Woody's always been doing things for the community. Hey, I'm here.
Thanks to all of our guests who are going to make a difference. And we thank you all for joining us today. I'm Lorraine Ballard-Morrill, along with Cosmic Kev, with this special edition of Black Barbers brought to you by Independence Blue Cross and the Know Your Mind campaign. Encourages us to care for our mental health because how we think and feel is health. You can learn more at ibx.com/knowyourmind.